guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Angie, and today we're going to talk about some back to school books. August is the month when pretty much everybody goes back to school, so I wanted to give some back to school book recommendations that are not Harry. These are mostly fantasy books. There are a couple contemporary, and there's one nonfiction in here. I know, weird for me. I guess I feel like I should say all of these books have something to do with taking place in school. So that can either be like high school, or it could even be like kind of like college classes or an after high school thing. College aged schools, because they're not necessarily college when they're fantasy. We'll do the nonfiction one first and get it out of the way. So that is Educated by Tara Westover. This book is really good. I've actually read this book. I haven't read all of the books on this list, but I read Educated a couple years ago. My mother-in-law had it and I borrowed it, and it was really good. It's a memoir, which is why I like it. I like memoirs. About this woman who grew up in Idaho, Utah. Oh, she grew up somewhere over like in the West, and grew up in a very like survivalist Mormon home. And so the book talks about like what it means to be educated and how her education was different, and like going to college and being a woman, and just like the way her family viewed education, and then like what she came to understand was education. Such a great book. I highly recommend it, actually. Next, we're going to go to the contemporary ones, and I'm going to mention three. I think they all take place in school, though one of them might not, because I haven't actually read that one. And that is The Hate You Give, Concrete Rose, and On the Come Up by Angie Thomas. These books, I haven't read On the Come Up, but I've read the other two. Such great books. They are so good. They take place in high school. Concrete Rose is a prequel to The Hate You Give. Highly recommend them both. So good. The Hate You Give is about this girl named Star. She's black, growing up, and it talks a lot about like police brutality and racism and all of those kind of things, profiling, all of that. Really, really, really great story. Highly recommend it for everyone to read. Very eye-opening, very realistic, really good. And Concrete Rose is about Star's father, so it's his story, who was one of my favorites in the book, so I loved Concrete Rose so much. So highly, highly, highly recommend those. The next contemporary book is Fangirl by Rowell, and I just have to say I love Fangirl. Is one of my like all-time favorite books. I read that at, I don't know what age I was. I was in high school. A very like, what do you call that? Like the coming of age, very impressionable age. And I just felt so seen when I read that book. Like, it's about these twins who just graduated high school and are going off to college, and they're going to the same university. However, one of the twins does not want to room with the other one, and the other one is like, I want that security, whatever. And they are huge, huge fans of the Simon Snow series, which is like the equivalent of Harry Potter. And I was a huge Potter nerd. I still am. I felt like me going off to college and like being in my fandom phase, but like you go to this new place and like everybody's cool and everybody is like outgrown that, and your friends are like changing. It's just, oh, it's such a great, great, great book. And I just absolutely fell in love with the characters. I saw myself in a character. Oh, literally just such a great book. So I recommend that all the time. I recently, I think it was last semester or last year, I guess, I read they have a manga version of Fangirl, and so I read the first part of that, which was really good. So yeah, that's one of my like books that didn't change my life, but books that like were really important in my life. So good. The last contemporary book, which is, I believe it's a thriller. I haven't read this, and I'm not 100% sure what it's about. I feel like I need to grab my laptop quick so I can do a little synopsis. Okay, my computer died. Anyway, I'm just gonna go off of what I was able to find really fastly on that. This book is very popular, I believe. I've recognized it being popular in the libraries I've been at, the last 2 libraries I've been at, and that is One of Us is Lying by Karen McManus. And this is a thriller set in high school. Like, these are high school kids set in high school. It follows 4, believe it's boys. There might be a girl in there. It follows 4 high school kids surrounding this one person's murder. So it's kind of a mystery, kind of suspenseful, and obviously, like the title, One of Us is Lying, so you're kind of like, oh, what's happening? It kind of gives me like Pretty Little Liars vibes, which is also set in high school. I'm not going to talk about that one, it's not on my list. But another high school thrillery, suspenseful book. This one it's not on my TBR, not really on my radar. I know a lot of teens really love it right now, and I've heard it's a good book. So yeah, those are my like normal, I don't want to say normal people, because normal people read fantasy, but I should say normal people also read fantasy, or might read fantasy. Anyway, those were my contemporary and my nonfiction. I tried to throw in some things that weren't just fantasy. But when I think about like going back to school books, I think Harry Potter, because it just feels, I don't know, it's that time of year, like September 1st, you get on the Hogwarts Express. So I wanted to create a video where you can have that similar feeling, but without it being Harry Potter. The first book I'm going to talk about is actually a middle grade book, and I read this the beginning of 2021, last year. Really good series. It's called The Pennyroyal Academy by M.A. Larson. I loved this book. It's about this girl who was raised by dragons and is trying to get to this school to become a princess. So there are these, it's very interesting. It's a school, but the girls are going to be trained as princesses, which aren't like these prissy little princesses. They are princesses who hunt witches. So they are like witch hunters. They're trying to stop the witches. And boys go to this school to become knights, and the knights are there to slay the dragons. So it's a really, really cool story. I loved the main character. There's 3 books. It's a trilogy. And the characters were so great. There's so many name drops of fairy tales. So if you love fairy tales, like you get Cinderella's name, Snow White, like Rapunzel. You get all these really fun names, even like Rumpelstiltskin. It's all thrown in there, and it's just so good. I really, really enjoyed it. So highly, highly recommend that book if you enjoy middle grade and you enjoy fairy tales. It's a very wholesome series. It's so good. It's really good. The next one I'm just throwing in because this was another one in high school that I read and was obsessed with and absolutely just could not stop thinking about, and that is the Vampire Academy series by, who is this by? Okay, it'll be on the cover. Anyway, I was obsessed with this series. Like, I have a thing for forbidden love. I like forbidden love, so that trope is high on my list. And when you have a student fall in love with this, like a guard instructor, I fall for it every time. Anyway, this is obviously about vampires, and they're going to this academy. The main character's name is Rose, and she is this like protector of one of the vampires. So there are the vampires, and then there are like half vampires. I can't remember what they're called. I think they're called dampers or something like that, and they're kind of like the protectors of the vampires. And then there are these things called strigoi, which are like zombie vampires. The dampers are supposed to protect the vampires from the strigoi. So Rose trains for that and then falls in love with her instructor, which I don't blame her. His name is Dmitri and he is Russian and sounds hot. So, you know, it's fine. That is a 6-book series. I've been really wanting to reread it again recently because I want to know if I still have that same love for it that I did in high school, but also that makes me nervous to reread it in case that I start to view it differently because I've obviously grown up and aged about 10 years since I've read it. So one book that I highly recommend, like highly recommend, especially because the 3rd and final book in the trilogy is coming out in September. That is A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. There's A Deadly Education, that's book 1. The Last Graduate, that's book 2. And The Golden Enclaves is book 3, coming out September 20th. And I'm so excited to read it. I just finished reading the second one a couple weeks ago, and I read the first one about a year ago. It is about this main character named Elle. She goes to this school called the Scholomance, and this school is kind of sentient, and also there's no teachers. The kids kind of, like the school kind of teaches them, like it gives them the materials they need, it gives them their classes. It's very interesting. But also the school has these monsters which are called Maleficaria, and they're trying to eat the students. So many of the students don't make it. They die. That's just part of the Scholomance. And so our series follows Elle Galadriel, and she kind of has made her way through the school being like an outcast, like an outsider. And then one of the popular kids named Orion kind of notices her and is saving her life and all this stuff. So we just get to follow her journey through the school. And when you hit your senior year, you go to this graduate hall, which is the bottom level, and you have to fight your way out against these monsters to get back to the real world because you've been cut off from the real world for the last 4 years. It's just really good. The magic is really interesting. They call it mana. So they have this mana. That's how they can do spells and like attack the mouths and save themselves. So it's very, very interesting. They are considered, were they calling them wizards or sorceresses? They might have been calling them both. So magic school, A Deadly Education because the school is trying to kill you. So good. I highly recommend this series. It is a touch difficult to read if you've never read Naomi Novik's writing before. Her style is a little more, like it's less dialogue, more narration. So we get a lot of inner descriptions, inner monologues, and narration versus actual dialogue. So it does get difficult to read once in a while, but it's really, really good. The second book was better than the first, so I anticipate the third being even better. So this next book I have not read. I do have it on my TBR. I think it sounds very interesting. It's about this girl. I think she's 16 when she finds out, so it's more high school aged. But she's grown up in, I believe it's the real world, but finds out that she is actually, I don't know if they call her a wizard or not. She has powers. And so she has to go, and the powers are elemental. So you got earth, air, fire, water. She has to go to this place called Isoria. Oh, I didn't even tell you what this book is called. It's called The Secrets of Isoria by Cristina Macari. And she has to go train at this elite academy in Isoria, which is like a secluded academy for the magic wielders. And I believe something happens where there's like an evil or an enemy character, and I believe it's enemies to lovers. I know it's slow burn. I know there's romance. We're gonna move on to the last two. I'm getting long-winded. The last two I'm going to put together because they are in the same world by the same authors. This is the Zodiac Academy and the Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac Academy by, oh my gosh, who is this? Susanne Valenti and Carolyn Peckham. I really love both of these. They're not everybody's cup of tea, and that is okay. So the Ruthless Boys is a prequel to the Zodiac, and Zodiac Academy is centered around like your zodiac, like your astrology sign, but also it's an elemental academy, an elemental powers magic academy. So again, earth, fire, water, air. And it's about these two twins who are growing up in Chicago, I think. The real world, they find out that they are the lost princesses of this realm called Solaria, and they are whisked away and they have to go to the Zodiac Academy. This book is, I love it for many, many, many reasons. One, the magic system is really cool. Two, I think the Zodiac stuff is really cheesy, but it's kind of fun. Three, not only do they have these magic powers, but they also have order forms. So they have powers, but they can also transform into some type of other being. So we've got centaurs, we have Nemean lions, we have Medusas, we have dragons, we have Pegasuses, sirens, vampires, werewolves. Like, it's just really, really, really cool. And I've never seen anything like that before, and I absolutely love it because it's fascinating. I really enjoy it. This is a bully romance, which means the first book and the second book, not so much the third, have an insane amount of bullying in it, which can be a major trigger warning for people. I was really put off by it at first. I almost DNF'd the first book halfway through and was like, I don't like this. Like, they are mean. But if you push through, it does get a little better, and the bullying is let up by book 3. And so far there are 7 books in the series. The 8th one is the final book, and it comes out in December. I really love it. This has one of the like biggest villains that I've ever read that I just have a deep, deep, deep loathing for. I have never felt that way about any character except maybe Umbridge that I have for this character. So I'm just really invested in the characters and what is going to happen. I love this series. It's not everybody's cup of tea. It does get very difficult to read, and it gets pretty smutty towards later books. So if that's not your thing, I don't blame you. Ruthless Boys is a prequel to the Zodiac, and you can completely read them separately if you read one versus the other. The thing about Ruthless Boys, though, is that it is reverse harem, which is interesting. Yeah, I've never read a book like that before. Yeah, I love the characters, at least, in Ruthless Boys. It's just a very weird vibe. I've never read that before. And this takes place at a different academy in Solaria. So there are different academies in this world. And it follows some of the characters that have been mentioned in Zodiac Academy, but they are not in any way like the same. I mean, they are the same, but not like overlapping. So things are alluded to in Ruthless Boys that happen in Zodiac or are prophesized in Zodiac. You wouldn't necessarily know unless you've read Zodiac. And stuff is also said and characters are brought in from the Zodiac that don't give anything away for Ruthless Boys. So they did a very good job of like overlapping but not overlapping. It's almost more like Easter eggs, which are just as fun. So I haven't finished that series. There's 5 books and I have read 3 of them. So those are the books that I am saying for Happy Back to School. There's so many more school related books out there. I just wanted to have something fun with it because I like the fantasy ones, and I wanted it to not be Harry Potter related because that's like always the go-to, of course. So I'm gonna drop the question: what's your favorite back to school book or series that you always love to read around this time? If you're going back to school, best of luck to you. I'm so happy that I am officially forever done with school and I never have to go back again. Socials down below. Haven't used anything except Goodreads in a long time. I hope you guys have a great week and a great time back at school, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!